evening, everyone. I was going to try and do this really like scary, dressy up kind of thing, some teeth, some blood, all of that. And then I just thought, nah, that's not what they've come for. They've come to see these amazing authors. Welcome to the virtual Noir at the Bar Halloween special. Simon and I are delighted to be back and to see so many of you in the audience, whether you've never joined us before or if you've been with us from the beginning. Thank you. Tonight, we have some bewitching guests for you in the form of Ramsey Campbell, CJ Tudor, Matt Wesolowski, Max Seeck, CJ Cooper, Vanessa Savage, Suzy Aspley, Ian Skewis, Laura Purcell, Alison Belsham, Catriona Ward, and Ian Rankin. Woo! For those of you who don't know, Noir at the Bar started in 2008 in Philadelphia, thanks to the one and only Peter Wesolowski. It spread across the US and then to the UK, and it came to Newcastle in 2016 with me. We've been to Harrogate since then, and there are chapters in Edinburgh, Glasgow, London, Europe, you name it, Noir at the Bar's there. Virtual Noir at the Bar came into being on the 1st of April this year due to lockdown restrictions. Simon Buick and I wanted to recreate the atmosphere of the bar, where book-loving folks could get together virtually and chat about books and hear some pretty fine authors read from their work. It does feel like ages since our last show in August, so I'm just going to remind you how tonight will all work. We have the wonderful Nikki Black monitoring the chat, so be on your best behaviour because she will bounce you out if she needs to. I know she won't need to. Names will be pulled out of the hat at random. This is my concession. Oh, it's still got a tag on. How classy is that? Yeah, that's my Halloween concession, a lovely witch's hat. We are trying to recreate what happens in the bar. So when I'm picking a name from the hat, please give me a drum roll. I will be able to hear you. If you want to chat with people on the panel or in the audience, please use the chat box along the bottom and select all attendees and panelists from the blue drop-down box. But we do ask that you don't chat during readings. That's just bad manners. If you want to ask one of our wonderful panelists a question, please pop it in the Q&A. It's there on my screen. I hope it's there on yours. And I will endeavour to ask, but can't promise. If, when I'm introducing an author, you hear something impressive, give us a woo! Please note, if you're new here, my woos may sound sarcastic, but they are absolutely not. I tried to give them up halfway through VNatB, but the regulars guilted me into bringing them back. So do give us a woo. If you hear something you like during the evening that you think should be our quote of the week, please drop it into the chat box and we'll put it to a vote on Twitter after the event. And of course, you can always chat about us on social media using the hashtag VNatB. So, welcome to you all. You are our biggest audience by far. We're delighted to have you. Thank you very much for joining us. So without further ado, shall we get cracking? See who's our first victim this evening. So, I've got the hat. Are you giving me a drum roll? I do hope so. Okay. Very exciting. It is CJ Tudor. CJ Tudor lives with her partner and young daughter. Her love of writing, especially the dark and macabre, started young. When her peers were reading Judy Blume, she was devouring Stephen King and James Herbert. Over the years, she's had a variety of jobs, including trainee reporter, radio scriptwriter, dog walker, voiceover artist, television presenter, copywriter, and now author. Her first novel, The Chalk Man, was a Sunday Times bestseller and sold in 39 territories. Woo! And yesterday, it was announced that The Chalk Man will be adapted into a 6-part series for BBC. Woo! Without further ado, let's raise a glass of whatever this is with some eyeballs in the bottom to CJ Tudor and welcome her to Virtual Noir at the Bar.
Cheers, thank you. I'll drink to that. Lovely, thanks very much. Right, this is my first time, so do I just like crack on and read something? Yeah, is that how it goes? It's good to be prepared, isn't it? Right, lovely. Right, yes. Well, look, here we are. And I get to read first. I should point out, I actually really hate reading from my own books because I always think I make a right pig's ear of it. But bear with me, I should give it my best shot. I've got my Halloween hat on and I'll be reading from my new book. This is the one that's out next year, The Burning Girls. Because I sat there this morning timing myself, reading stuff and trying to work out what was the best thing I could read in the right time. So I suppose, without further ado, I should just get on with it. So I'm going to read from the start of The Burning Girls. Right, and I say bear with me because I'm really not very good at this. So, Burning Girls. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Burning Girls are twig dolls peculiar to the small Sussex village of Chapel Croft. The dolls are made to commemorate the Sussex martyrs, 8 villagers who were burnt at the stake during Queen Mary's purge of the Protestants, 1553 to 1558. 2 of the martyrs were young girls. The Burning Girls are set alight in a ceremony held every year on the anniversary of the purge. Prologue. What kind of man am I? It was a question he'd asked himself a lot. I'm a man of God. I'm his servant. I do his will. But was that enough? He stared at the small whitewashed house, thatched roof, bright purple clematis crawling up its walls, bathed in the fading glow of the late summer sun. Birds chittered in the trees. Bees buzzed lazily amongst the bushes. Here lies evil, here in the most innocuous of settings. He walked slowly up the short path. Fear gripped his belly. It felt like a physical pain, a cramping in his gut. He raised his hand to the door, but it opened before he could knock. Oh, thank God. Thank the Lord you came. The mother sagged at the doorway. Lank brown hair stuck to her scalp. Her eyes were shot through with blood, and her skin was grey and lined. He thought, this is what it looks like when Satan enters your home. He stepped inside. The house stank, sour, unclean. How could it have come to this? He looked up the stairs. The darkness at the top seemed thick with malevolence. He rested his hand on the banister. His legs refused to move. He squeezed his eyes tightly shut, breathing deeply. Father, I am a man of God. Show me, he said. He started to ascend. At the top of the stairs, there were just 3 doors. A boy, slack-faced in a stained t-shirt and shorts, peered around one. As the black-clothed figure approached, the boy quickly pulled the door shut. He pushed open the door next to it. The heat and smell hit him like a physical entity. He placed a hand over his mouth and tried not to gag. The bed was stained with blood and bodily fluids. Restraints had been tied to each bedpost, but they hung loose. In the middle of the mattress, a large leather case lay open. Sturdy straps held the contents in place. A heavy crucifix, a Bible, holy water, muslin cloths. 2 items were missing. They lay on the floor. A scalpel and a long serrated knife, both slick with blood. More blood pooled like a dark ruby cloak around the body. He swallowed, his mouth as dry as the summer fields. Dear Lord, what has taken place here? I told you, Father, I told you that the devil... Enough! He spotted something on the bedside table. He walked over to it, a small black box. He stared at it for a moment and then turned to the mother, hovering in the doorway. She wrung her hands and stared at him pleadingly. What shall we do? We, because this was upon him too. He looked back at the bloody, mutilated body on the floor. What kind of man am I? Get cloths and bleach, now. Weldon Herald, Thursday, 24th of May, 1990. Missing girls. Police have appealed for help in the search for 2 missing Sussex teenagers, Mary Lane and Joy Harris. The pair, who are believed to have run away together, are both aged 15. Joy was last seen at a bus stop in Henfield on the evening of 12th May. Mary disappeared from her home in Chapel Croft a week later, on May 19th, after leaving a note. Police are not treating their disappearance as suspicious, but are concerned about the girls' welfare and appealing for them to get in touch with their families. You won't be in trouble, they're worried. They just want you to come home. Joy is described as slight, around 5 foot 5 inches tall, with long light blonde hair and delicate features. She was last seen wearing a pink t-shirt, jeans and Dunlop green flash trainers. Mary is described as thin, 5'7" with short dark hair, last seen wearing a baggy grey jumper, jeans and plimp soles. Anyone who sees them should report the sightings to Weldon Police or call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Chapter 1. It's an unfortunate situation. Bishop John Durkin smiles benevolently. I'm pretty sure that Bishop John Durkin does everything benevolently, even taking a shit. The youngest bishop to govern the North Notts Diocese, he's a skilled orator, author of several acclaimed theological papers, and if he hadn't at least tried to walk on water, I'd be bloody amazed. He's also a wanker. I know it, his colleagues know it, his staff know it. Secretly, I think, even he knows it. Unfortunately, no one is going to call him on it. Certainly not me. Not today. Not while he holds my job, my home and my future in his smooth, manicured hands. Something like this can shake the faith of the community, he continues. They're not shaken, I say. They're angry and sad. But I won't let this ruin everything we've achieved. I won't leave people now when they need me the most. But do they, Jack? Attendance is down. Classes cancelled. I hear that the children's groups may move to another church. Crime scene tape and police officers will do that, I sigh. This is not a community that has any love for the police. I understand that. No, he doesn't. The closest Durkin gets to the inner city is when his driver takes a wrong turn on the way to his private gym. I'm confident it's only temporary, I say. I can rebuild their trust. I don't add that I need to. I need this. I made a mistake and I need to make amends. So now you can perform miracles, Jack? Before I can answer or argue, Durkin continues smoothly. Look, I know you did what you thought was best, but you got too close. I sit back stiffly in my seat, fighting the urge to fold my arms like a sulky teenager. I thought that was our job, to build close ties with the community. It's our job to uphold the reputation of the church. These are testing times. Everywhere churches are failing. Fewer people are attending. We've an uphill battle without this negative publicity. And that's what Durkin really cares about. The newspapers, PR. The church doesn't get good press at the best of times, and I've really screwed things up by trying to save a little girl and instead condemning her. So what, I say, you want me to resign? Not at all. It would be a shame for someone of your calibre to leave. He steeples his hands together. He really does that. And it would look bad. An admission of guilt. We have to give careful consideration to what we do next. I'm sure, especially considering my appointment here was his idea. I'm his prize show dog, and I've been performing well, turning the once derelict inner city church back into a hub of the community. Until Ruby. So what do you suggest, I say? A transfer, somewhere less high profile. A small church in Sussex has suddenly found itself without a priest. Chapelcroft. While they nominate a replacement, they need an interim vicar. I stare at him, feeling the earth shift beneath my feet. I'm sorry, but that's not possible. My daughter's taking her GCSEs next year. I can't just move her to the other end of the country. I've already agreed the transfer with Bishop Gordon at the Weldon Diocese, he says. You've what? How? Has the post been advertised? Surely there must be a more suitable local... He waves a hand dismissively. We were chatting. Your name came up. He mentioned the vacancy. Serendipity. Yeah, and Durkin can pull more strings than frigging Geppetto. Try and look on the bright side, Jack, he says. It's a beautiful part of the country. Fresh air, fields, a small, safe community. It could be good for you and Flo. I think I know what's best for me and my daughter. The answer is no. Then let me be blunt, Jack. His eyes meet mine. This is not a fucking request. There's a reason why Durkin is the youngest bishop to govern the diocese, and it has nothing to do with his benevolence. I clench my fists in my lap. Understood. Excellent. You start next week. Pack your wellies.
Thank you very much for that. Got a couple of questions.
I think it was about 7 minutes. I hope I didn't overrun.
You didn't at all, and it was fabulous. Thank you. Alex Hawley would like to know, what was the inspiration for the Burning Girls?
It was the village where we moved to 2 years ago. This small village in Sussex. That was the inspiration. It's a brilliant place with loads of really macabre history and a very creepy chapel just up the road. And the minute I saw the chapel, I was like, I've got to write a book about that chapel. It's got to be in the next book. So yeah, I think I'm hoping a lot of the locals don't like come after me with their pitchforks if they read it.
I'd like to say, are you still living in that village, and do you hope to be in the future?
Stay here.
And Kevin Woolard would like to know, now that The Chalk Man is being adapted for TV, congratulations, by the way, are there plans afoot for the very creepy The Other People?
It's been optioned. I don't think I'm allowed to say still who it's been optioned by, actually, but it's someone I'm very excited about. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It took ages. The Chalk Man was in the pipeline for ages, but they wouldn't say anything until it was more concrete, as they said. So yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Sean Pearson would like to know, which of your 4 books is your favourite? Do you have a favourite? Is it like children? Are you allowed?
It is. It's like picking children, isn't it? But unfortunately, I've only got one child, so that saves that problem. Do you know, I think you always, in a way, the Chalk Man will always, in a way, be a favourite because it was the first book I got published. You know, it might not necessarily be the best. Who knows now? You know, I'm hoping they get better each time. But I think, yeah, there's something about your first book, isn't there? You know, the first one that made it.
Thank you so much for kicking off our Halloween special.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to get that hat out again. Which is hat. I can neither confirm nor deny whether this is my actual hat. Some people have made cheeky remarks, but you know. Okay, very exciting. All the way from Helsinki is Max Seeck. Max Seeck is a screenwriter and chart-topping Finnish author. Woo! His 2016 debut met great critical acclaim. I'll try that again. Critical and commercial success, establishing him as one of Scandinavia's most exciting new thriller writers and securing the Finnish Detective Society's Debut of the Year award. Woo! The Witch Hunter, right there beside CJ Tudor, has sold in 40 territories with TV rights bought by a Hollywood production company. Woo! Max grew up in Helsinki. His background is in sales and marketing, and he is a reserve rank of lieutenant in the Finnish Defence Forces following compulsory military service in Finland. He now writes full-time. The Witch Hunter is his 5th novel and the first in a new series. He had played in several bands, and his passions are reading Nordic Noir, as many of you in the audience enjoy doing, and listening to movie soundtracks. So everybody, huge round of applause for Max Seeck.
Great, thanks for having me. You can hear me? Great. Okay, so it's super amazing. We're 2 hours ahead here in Finland, and it's 10 o'clock almost. So I have to apologize in advance that maybe I won't be able to follow the whole program through because I have to wake up at 5 o'clock the next morning. But I'm really happy to be a part of this, and I'm going to read you maybe a chapter or 2 from my book, The Witch Hunter, that's been released in the UK. It's in September, and it's my 4th novel and the first one that is actually translated in English, and therefore it's you know, I'm so happy that you guys can actually read it in the UK. That's always been one of my biggest dreams, to be translated to English and many other languages as well. And yeah, I hope you like my little reading. And it's basically about a writer, a crime fiction author, just like all of us. And and the book is about somebody copying the murders from his books. And the whole thing starts with him being interviewed in a book fair kind of thing. So I think you can all relate to this, and his ideas are nothing like mine. So this author is not me. I've been asked that a lot, but it's just a guy. So here we go. Roger Koponen sits himself in the chair, upholstered in a coarse, perspiration-inducing fabric, and squints. The spots hanging from the ceiling of the conference center's main auditorium are shining right into the eyes of those on stage. For a moment, all he sees is blinding light. He forgets that before him and his 2 older colleagues sit 400 curious readers who have packed into this auditorium to listen to their favorite boozer's thoughts on their latest works. Roger understands that the event is important in terms of promoting his book. He understands why he would bother to drive 400 kilometers in heavy snow to spend the night at the serviceable dump slapped up on Savonlinna's main square, its mediocre fast food restaurant on the ground floor dolled up with tablecloths and table service. But what Roger doesn't understand is why the good people of Savonlinna would bother to show up on a night like this. Even though his books have sold millions of copies worldwide, he's never going to be an idol besieged by shrieking fans. Few people ever reflect that musicians and authors do very similar work, same shit, different package, but only the former inspire middle-aged women to toss their panties on stage. But people still show up. The majority are seniors tilting their heads slowly to one side and then the other. Aren't they tired of the sportscaster-style banalities and superficial analysis or spew about their own work? Apparently not, as it appears to be a full house, not a single empty seat. Roger's latest psychological thriller, launched the previous spring, is the third and final book in his enormously popular Witch Hunt trilogy. His books have always sold relatively well, but the Witch Hunt series blew up. No one anticipated this sort of mega success, least of all his agent, who originally held a skeptical view of the entire project, or his former publisher, whom Roger dumped prior to the publication of the first installment due to their lack of confidence in its prospects. But in the space of a few years, translation rights to the trilogy have been sold in almost 30 countries and more deals are in the pipeline. Although he and Maria were doing fine before, now they can buy themselves whatever they want. Suddenly all possible luxuries and pleasures are within reach. The evening goes predictably. Roger has heard the questions hundreds of times during his promotional tours and answered them in 4 different languages, intermittently modulating his cadence, intonation, and minor details with the exclusive aim of keeping himself awake amid the fog of bright lights and forced laughter. Your books are quite violent, a voice says, but Roger doesn't look up from the pictures he's using to fill his water glass for the 3rd or 4th time. He hears this a lot too, and there's no denying it. Brutal murders, sadistic torture, sexual violence directed at women, and nightmarish dives into the depravity of sick minds are described in Roger Koponen's works in graphic detail. It reminds me of Bret Easton Ellis, who has said he processes his angst by writing detailed, how do you spell it? I don't even know. Violence. The voice continues. Now Roger shifts his gaze to the man sitting half way back in the auditorium, microphone in his hand. Roger raises the glass to his lips and waits for the man to ask his question. But instead, there's an awkwardly long pause and the man collects his thoughts. Are you afraid? Is that why you write? The man finally asks in a flat, radio voice. Roger puts down the glass and takes a closer look at the balding scarecrow of a man. Surprising and interesting, almost brazen. Now, this is a question he has never heard before. Roger leans in, bringing his mouth closer to the flexible microphone on the table. For some reason, he feels a pang of hunger at this instant. Am I afraid? Have you written your own fears into your books? The man asks, then lowers the microphone to his lap. There's an annoying smugness to the guy. There's not a hint of the jittery respect that certain irreverence fame brings and that Roger has grown accustomed to. Right, Roger says, and smiles thoughtfully. For a moment, he forgets the person posing the question and allows his gaze to wander across the sea of faces. I think that something of the author always finds its way into the work. You can't help writing about what you know about or think you know about. Fears, hopes, traumas, things left undone, and then, of course, the things you did and you justified yourself too easily. You're not answering the question. The gaunt man has raised the microphone up to his lips again. Roger feels the surprise and then irritation cutting through him. What is this? A fucking interrogation. I don't have to listen to this shit, regardless of the circumstances. Could you please be more specific? Pave Koskinen, the literary critic who organized this event and is serving as moderator, has intervened. He no doubt feels that he has handled his role with panache and gusto, but is now afraid that his star guest, the red-hot thriller writer who has written 3 international bestsellers, will take offense. But Roger raises a pacifying hand in the air, and smiled self-confidently. I apologize. Perhaps I didn't understand the question. Do I write about what I'm most afraid of? No, the other way around, the man says in a usually cold tone. Someone in the front row coughs maddeningly. Roger hides his confusion behind an idiotic smile. The other way around? Yes, Mr. Roger Koponen, the man continues mechanically, and the way he utters Roger's name is not only sarcastic, but vaguely chilling. Are you afraid of what you write? Why would I be afraid of my own books? Because truth is straight into fiction, the thin-faced man replies. An awkward silence falls over the room. There you go. There were a couple of really difficult words that I didn't know how to pronounce, but
I thought you did fabulously. I certainly couldn't do that in Finnish, so thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah. I do have one question for you from Alison Brady. She would like to know how you found the translation process.
Yeah, I mean, English is one of the languages that actually where I can actually read the translation, and I did, and I think it's one fun process. We had a really amazing translator. I think the same guy did the US and the UK versions, and there might be some differences between these two versions, but I think it was really interesting. He made some good questions, you know, while he was translating it, and I learned a lot. And I've read the whole book once, and the translation once, and I think I you know learn every time something when I read my own work in English. It's a really good translation, I've been told as well.
Thank you very much for reading for us tonight, but also for staying up past your bedtime. Really smart tomorrow.
Thanks for having me. It's amazing, and you know, have a great night, guys.
It was our pleasure. Thank you so much, Max.
Thank you.
Okay, right. In the words of John Classen, I want my hat back. Those who know. So who's third? It is Vanessa Savage. Vanessa Savage has published 2 psychological thrillers with Sphere, The Woman in the Dark and The Woods. She is currently in lockdown in South Wales. Oh, sorry, Vanessa, but you are here with us tonight, which is fab. Vanessa is juggling homeschooling with writing her 3rd book. So everybody, huge round of applause. She definitely needs some booze, I think. Vanessa Savage.
Thanks, Vic. Yes, we're currently in lockdown here in South Wales. Then this is about the virtual bar is the only one I can attend. So I have my beer and I have, so there we go. So I'm going to read From the Woods, my latest psychological thriller, which is a nice creepy read and suitably kind of pumpkin coloured, so nice and Halloween-y for this evening. And I'm going to read a scene which takes place the night after my main character Tess has had a phone call from her dad to say that her stepmother Julia is dying. He asked her to come home to the place that she'd sworn never to return to after losing her sister Bella in a tragic accident in the woods 10 years earlier. That night, I wake with a gasp, a shout echoing in my head. What was it? Was it the dream again? The abandoned house, Bella, the night before the wedding? I haven't had that dream in a while. Lately, my dreams have been filled with Julia and the woods. All my nightmares seem to end up there. I've always slept so well here in the city. In the stifling confines of the flat I live in, I felt safe, the bad dreams held at bay. Boxed in, I can sleep, knowing there is no expanse of trees and emptiness outside. Just more flats and houses, lights and people everywhere. But recently, what's woken me again tonight? Is it worrying about work or about Julia? It's 2 a.m. I came to bed after midnight, so I've slept for an hour or so. I think I slipped into a dream. It was the night before Dad and Julia's wedding again. Bella and I were in a garden. I push the covers aside and get up. I have to distance myself from the dream before I can try to sleep again. The floorboards are cold. I curl my toes and grope under the bed for the slippers I kicked off only a couple of hours ago. I make tea, taking comfort in the familiar steps, cup, milk, tea bag. With my back to the window and sipping my tea, I can pretend it's day, that everyone around me is awake and I'm not alone. When I turn, though, I spill my drink, my hand slipping as I see I'm not alone after all. Bella is there, silent and smiling. My breathing was too loud. The kettle boiling was too loud. I didn't hear her come in. I'm not awake then. This is still a dream. I look down at my wrist, stinging and red from the tea spill. A very vivid dream. Bella? I whisper it, but in the dead of night, it sounds as if I'm shouting. She glances behind her at the dark window and then looks back at me. Her smile fades, and I wonder if she sees it, the changes the years have wrought. When we were kids, Bella used to pinch my cheeks, laughing at how red they'd glow and stay glowing. Apple cheeks, wild curls and freckles, that was me. She was the pale one, the skinny one, the one they always said should be a model with her blonde hair and killer cheekbones. And now, 10 years later, I know I look like a wild-haired imitation, a hollow, dried-up copy. God, I've missed you, I say, and my eyes burn. You're the one who left, Bella says, lifting a cigarette I didn't see her holding. She inhales, blowing out a smoke ring. She's leaning against the windowsill, looking the same as she always did back then. Skinny jeans and a vest top, bare feet, even though it's February and below zero. She grins and holds up a cigarette packet. Want one? I do want to. I want to stand in the kitchen of my flat at 2 a.m, smoking with my sister. Pretend it was something we did together, even though I never used to because I was the good girl. Couldn't you sleep? She asks, and I shake my head, frowning. This dream is too real. Are you awake or asleep? My mind whispers. Of course I'm asleep. How could Bella be here otherwise? All my dreams of Bella since the accident, they've always been about after, nightmares. I've never dreamed her alive, never talked to her. Excuse me. The longing to hold her again and not let her go is fierce, a physical pang. Remember when we were kids, she says. Remember how you could never sleep until I came home? I used to worry, I say. I liked to stay awake until I heard you come in, until I knew you were safe. I wipe a tear off my cheek. Dad would go off to bed, trusting everything would be fine, but I'd stay awake and watch the minutes ticking away and wait. I'd imagine so many awful things happening as every minute past midnight ticked away. You always were an old woman for worrying, she says. I was right to worry though, wasn't I? I feel the heat rising in my cheeks. Funny, all these years I've never realised how angry I am. I'm angry at how irresponsible she was. Are you still waiting? She asks, and I frown. What do you mean? She leans in. I can smell the woods in her hair, damp earth and rotting leaves. I can hear her breathing, her breath overlapping mine. Is that why you can't sleep now? I reach out a hand, wishing I could touch her. It's Dad's phone call doing this, calling me home, making me remember. I don't want to remember. You never came home, I say. I waited and waited, but you never came home. You know I can't sleep until you come home. The stupid tears won't stop now. They're filling my eyes so I can't see her properly. There are smudges on her vest top, dark mud on the knees of her torn jeans. They weren't there a minute ago. Her hair looks less smooth. It's tangled, leaves caught in it. A drop of blood trickles down her cheek. Wrong. I close my eyes and shake my head. I don't want to see her like this. I spent years trying to erase that image. That's the way I last saw her, but I don't want to remember her like that. I open my eyes and she's bright, shining Bella again. Beautiful 18-year-old Bella. I'm sorry I died, she says. I'm sorry I never came home. I rub my eyes and press my hands to my aching head, touching the old scar on my forehead. She'll disappear again in a minute, fade away like she always does in dreams. You never came home. How am I supposed to ever get to sleep again? You can't, she says. Not yet. Promises to keep and miles to go, like that poem, remember? She steps closer and whispers her next words. And Tess, remember this as well. It wasn't an accident. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It appears in the chat, Vanessa, that there are a lot of people in solidarity in Wales with you at the moment. So yeah, we have quite a big Welsh contingent tonight. I read The Woods the other week. It took me longer than usual because I couldn't read it at bedtime. So thank you for that. We have one more reader before we go to our first break. So we shall get The Witch's Hat. And who is it going to... Oh, Effie Merrill will be delighted. It is the one and only Ian Rankin. Ian Rankin's first Rebus novel was published in 1987, and the Rebus books are now translated into 36 languages and are worldwide bestsellers. Woo! He has so many accolades and honorary degrees that we'd be here all night if I went through them. But among them, he does have a prestigious CWA Diamond Dagger. Woo! Ian is a man who needs no introduction, which begs the question, what have I been doing for the last minute? So everybody raise your glasses to the one and only Ian Rankin.
How you doing? I hope everybody can hear me. Thumbs up from the crew. Yeah, crew have given a thumbs up. Thank you very much. Hello from Edinburgh. Not quite in lockdown yet, but we're getting there. Pubs all shut, restaurants mostly shut. It's a drag. And at the start of the original lockdown, around about April, I was asked by the National Theatre of Scotland if I might write a little one-act play, a little 5-10 minute monologue that would comment on the lockdown and the coronavirus and everything else. And this was a boon to me because I was being asked by people on social media, fans of the books, how would Rebus cope? Rebus lives 2 flights up a tenement, lives on his own, is in his late 60s, has a health condition that means he's got to isolate. How the hell would he cope? Now, the new book, the latest book, was written during lockdown, but I decided to set it the previous year, so it's set in the summer of 2019, thank God. So I didn't have to take the virus on at all. But during lockdown, I did write this, which was added to the Waterstones edition of the book, but is also available online if you go to the National Theatre of Scotland website, or if you go to YouTube. They gave it to an actor you won't have heard of called Brian Cox. He's young, he's vibrant, he's new, he's with it. He's having a bit of success just now with a show called Succession, which I can't see because I've only got cancelled TV. And, you know, no, he's not the astrophysicist. But they gave it to him, and you can see him do it much better than I'm just about to do it. This is the monologue that I wrote for Rebus in lockdown. I miss the pub. Pubs, plural. All pubs. Pubs, many and various. I'd even risk the ones I wouldn't normally visit. As an ex-cop, there are places you learn to avoid. People there with long memories, and your face might be the one to set them off. But I'd risk it right now. Even at my age and my condition, I could murder a pint. Cans and bottles just aren't the same, are they? God knows I've persevered. If you'd asked me, I'd have said, I'm not the most sociable type. But a wee bit of chat, or even unspoken proximity to a few other fellow human beings who are as interested as I am in monk-like contemplation of the contents of their glass. Murder a pint, I could. Instead of which, Siobhan rings the bell, leaves a bag or two at the door. I'm supposed to wait 20 seconds before I retrieve it, by which time she's halfway down the tenement stairwell. So we have another brief catch-up, socially distanced. She can't tell me about cases she's working, walls having ears, confidentiality and all that. And it's not like I've much news to report, not me. I mean, maybe she'll explain what's in the bags, any substitutions or wee treats. I made a pot of vegetable soup the other day. Just leek, potato, onion. Took me back to my dad stirring away at the stove, one of the few things he knew how to cook after my mum died. All because Siobhan had left me the makings, along with the recipe. Then it's back indoors and empty out the contents. Ready meals, sausages, eggs, milk, bread, dog food. The basics, in other words, She'll have added apples or bananas, trying to get me to eat my 5 a day, a newspaper, sometimes 2, plus a few cans or bottles, though she tells me I shouldn't. Supposed to be looking after myself. The government say I'm high risk, so I must be high risk. That's because of my age, plus the COPD, emphysema. Last thing my long-suffering lungs need is the virus or a wee touch of pneumonia. The dog food's not for me, by the way. It's for the dog, Brillo. Though I remember reading somewhere that in America more pensioners than pets eat pet food. Some of it doesn't smell too bad either. If you were served it in a pie in one of those pubs I don't go into, well, would you even notice? So anyway, I don't even get to take Brillo for a walk. Siobhan does, morning before she goes to work and again last thing in the evening. Same routine. I open the door, she calls for him from halfway down the stairs. I'm allowed exercise, I tell her. Walk around the living room, she says. You'll live longer. Aye. Or maybe it'll just feel like it. The meadows and Bruntsfield links are hoaching, she says. Joggers puffing and panting everywhere. Bikers whizzing past. All of them breathing. You're safer where you are. It's boring though, I tell her. Boring. You can Zoom people, she says. What people? The people I've got any time for. People like me. People like me, we don't do Zoom. They can't get their heads around Zoom. Any of that other stuff. I shovel coal into my computer every morning, I tell her, to get it going. Council telly, no Netflix or Amazon Prime. Christ, where would you start? One remote's plenty to be getting on with. But don't get me wrong, I can use a phone. A mobile phone, I mean. Send texts. Who am I sending them to? Who am I sending them to? Siobhan, that's who. Usually with the next day's shopping list. Sometimes I speak to my daughter Samantha, her daughter Carrie. I think the lockdown's getting to them too. Carrie, trying to comprehend why she can't see even a single one of her friends. Sam, stuck with homeschooling, now she's a lone parent. Not even her dad in the vicinity to lend a hand. To hell with a lot of it. So instead, I keep the record deck warm. Dust off LPs I've not played in donkeys. All the early Who, the Stones, the Beatles, a bit of Van Morrison, Rory Gallagher, John Martin. At school, you were either the Beatles or the Stones. Now, you're allowed to be both. People are allowed to be whatever the hell they want. Mods can be rockers. Teds can be hippies. Teds. First time Siobhan mentioned a TED talk to me, I wondered what had happened that people were suddenly listening to TEDs. You can better yourself, she says. Plenty of learning resources available online. I've got a pair encyclopedia, I told her. Not everything in it's out of date. Plenty of brainy stuff on the radio too, albeit punctuated by the newsreader of doom. Death totals rising, makeshift mortuaries. They even seem to have run out of the "and finally" stories. The funny ones they always tacked on at the end of the news bulletin to stop you sticking your head in the oven. Christ. I had one of those once, long time back, when I was a cop. Kitchen suicide. We had to smash the windows so we didn't all go the same way. Poor bugger. Record your memoirs, Siobhan says. I think she must talk to Samantha some nights because they both came up with that one around the same time. Record your memoirs. Told me I could do it on the computer, but then she bought me a writing pad and some ballpoints anyway. I'm halfway down the first page. It's only taken me a few days. I might see if I can go back to it tonight, try and finish the sentence I started. Aye. Sentence. That's what this feels like. I always wondered when I was on the force, what would it be like in a cell? I thought I'd be fine with it. Fine in a cell. A pile of books and the wireless, feet up much of the day, minimal exercise, meals prepared for you, holiday camp stuff. Aye, Holiday camp. Until that is, you start to feel how close the walls are to you. No way of pushing them back. Nowhere to hide. That's the great thing about the outside world. Not the fresh air and the wide open spaces. It's the supermarkets and the pubs and the shops and the busy pavements. You can hide there. Hide from yourself and your thoughts. Whereas in here, music and a dog. That's what I've got. Music, a dog, and the inside of my head. The human head being the most fiendish cell ever constructed. Trapped there until the door buzzer. It's like a shot of adrenaline, that noise, indicating she's downstairs, waiting to be let in. I wish she'd stay a little longer, keep the chat going. I wish I could tell her how much she means to me. It's hard for men like me to say a simple thanks. It's a chink in our armour, a weakness we're not supposed to show. Men my age, men my age, men my background. What does it matter though? What does it matter? Next time she comes, I'll shout it down the stairwell, tell her everything I've ever wanted to. So what if the old tenement hears? I'm the old boy on the second floor, that's all. Nobody's paying me any attention. Aye, that's what I'll do then. Aye, maybe I'll do that. I will. Maybe. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian. We'll have a couple of questions for you. Alex Hawley would like to know, when is the next standalone, like Doors Open, coming?
No comment.
Interesting. Okay. And Hugo from Norway would like to know, what are the new things you've learned about Edinburgh walking through the empty streets of the city during shutdown?
I mean, it's been a sad but rare privilege to walk around Edinburgh during the summer when it's completely empty and devoid of tourists, visitors and people, everything locked up, everything shuttered and behind barricades. What have I learned? I've found a few new streets I didn't know existed. I know now that Edinburgh has birdsong. If you're in the middle of Edinburgh in the summer, you can't normally hear the birdsong because there's too much traffic and there's too many folk. Busking bagpipers and everything else. So to walk up and down the Royal Mile from Holyrood Palace to the castle, hearing birdsong is extraordinary. The city became a city again, a kind of weird, empty city, but a city nevertheless. And it was, you know, I mean, it's venal to say it, but what a great time to be a writer because there was so much material possibly out there, so much that got your synapses going, and had all the time in the world to write the latest book. What's it called again? A Song for the Dark Times. Because I had nothing else to do. I'd no festivals, no gigs, no nothing. All I had to do was to sit in this room, this is my office, with Muriel Spark peering over my shoulder and write.
Excellent. And Rob Scragg would like to know, if you had to pick one city apart from Edinburgh that you'd love to set a book in, where would it be and why?
Where's Rob from, do we know?
Rob's from North Shields, just down the road from me.
Yeah, but Newcastle, obviously Newcastle, maybe Sunderland, I suppose.
No. Well,
it's like that thing of saying, you know, what's your favourite cheese? I don't know, what country are we in? What's your favourite booze? What country are we in? No, I mean, Newcastle, I watched Get Carter a couple of nights ago. It was on TV again, Get Carter. I mean, you know, how fantastic would it be to do an updated version of Get Carter set in the Newcastle of the now? I think that would be an incredible story to tell. But, you know, I mean, you know, usually my favourite city includes one of my favourite pubs. And luckily for Newcastle, the Crown Posada is one of my favourite pubs in the world. So why wouldn't I set a book there?
My husband will be delighted to hear that. It's one of his favourites too. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and for treating us to that. I know everybody in the audience really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks, that is Ian's book right there, if you can see it. Am I still not on the screen? I don't know. I'll show you Ian's book later. We're going to go to a break now. So if you need to refresh your glasses or whatever you need to do, stick around if you can, but we will be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun, sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. I do feel good. I just had a moment. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom in the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. This whole world is a new world, is a full world for me. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn.